We live in a twilight world, and I'm in the mood for making a video for YouTube. So what you're looking at here on the screen is a very common type of video coming out from Ukraine of what I call the prop tank being driven around on the back of a lorry, driven from A to B, going through many small villages. Now this, of course, creates the illusions of war. The guys driving the lorry or truck, the NPCs driving, are just doing their jobs, okay? They are told to go from A to B. And they don't really stop and ask, like, why are we going such a long way round? Why the hell are we going all the way to the other side of the country? What's the point? They're just doing their jobs, okay? But yes, they will be told to go to a village that is very, very far away, and it will involve going through many towns and villages on the way. Of course, this brings the war into the physical reality of the people living in that village who may not have been experiencing any type of war whatsoever up until that point. They may have been, sitting there going, okay, there's a war in my country, but there's nothing going on here. And then boom, the truck with a blown up tank passes through. Now here's the thing. These tanks have not been authentically destroyed or decimated in a war. They've been either shot to pieces in training purposes, used as target practice, whatever. Artificially smashed to pieces and blown up, and then they're put in these trucks and moved around. That's it. Sometimes they're dropped off in a village and left there, and of course, the TikTok army, the useful idiots, will go and take selfies next to it and partake in the propaganda campaign and further fuel the online fiction of a war. You see, what they're doing is very clever in that they're passing off the job of spreading around the propaganda, filming it. It's all now been put onto the average Joe, NPC, TikTok army. And they're gladly doing it, For them, taking a picture of everything is second nature now. But it's nothing new. It's been going on for years. If you look at the footage of World War II, especially El Alamein and the Battle of North Africa, it's pretty much the same thing. Prop tanks being driven around and dropped off. Anyway, here's the main video I wanted to talk about. I pulled these images from a British Army propaganda outlet. I think they're called Access. Anyway, they do a lot of promotion for the British Army. Anyway, in the beginning of the Ukraine conflict, the British sent a convoy. I think it was the Royal Lancers over to Kaliningrad. We have Kaliningrad marked in red, a Russian territory, a Russian enclave just above Poland. Now, in the beginning of the war, for no reason other than to create the illusions of war, NATO forces, and especially the British, sent a load of vehicles, military presence, up to the border with Kaliningrad, a show of force. This is what we were told, right? And this is what the soldiers were told. But really, it was nothing to do with that, okay? Because they landed in Gdansk. I think that's how you say it. And did they go straight from Gdansk to the border? Of course not. They went down here, then they went over here, then they went over here, then they went up, met up with like a Polish unit over here and done a quick training exercise. They went over here and done a quick training exercise, and they went down here, all the way around fucking Poland. Now question, what does this do? Obviously, all the people watching my videos knows full well what this does. It scares the shit out of the local populace. Them driving through villages creates the illusions of war. For people in Polish villages that may not even watch TV, may not even own a phone, may be very skeptical of the war itself, now it's been brought to their doorstep when there's a huge convoy of, look at this, armoured fighting vehicles, the Jackal, machine guns on top, men with masks driving through your town. It scares the shit out of the local populace. This is the whole point. This is how you create the illusions of war. Okay? And it's very effective, you know? It works. You know, if you're a little granny NPC, you know, and you see this drive through your town, it's going to be pretty frightening. It's going to bring it really home. It creates the reality that Europe is about to go to war. You know? Are they still there? I don't know. I think it was the Royal Lancers. They are obviously a cavalry unit. And obviously in the year 2022, they're no longer riding horses. So they've swapped their horses for these jackaled fighting vehicles. And then this would be their Polish counterparts, who are probably of the same kind of, you know, cavalry type unit as well. They meet up, they have a jolly, they show each other their guns. Wow, we use this gun, we use this tank. Oh, wow, that's amazing. And then they fuck off to the next place. The next army base, driving through lots of little villages. Of course, the other classic one is putting a ridiculous amount of tanks on the back of a train and having the train go around the country, scaring the shit out of people. You know, because that's quite intimidating, you know, seeing that many tanks all queued up. Funny enough, I think they did this in America with the Scamdemic. And, you know, these videos were going viral of army tanks going through civilian train stations. And, of course, the masses, the TikTok army, shit themselves thinking that, you know, it was coming for them. Now, what you've got to remember is the USSR and all of its countries has an abundance of old, out of service, surplus to requirements tanks sitting around in tank graveyards. Russia alone is reported to have 30,000 tanks sitting around in tank graveyards. Ukraine probably has a high amount too, being it's an ex-USSR country. Now, this is nothing new. During the Scamdemic, I don't know about your town, but where I was living, they had fake ambulances constantly driving up and down the motorway with their lights flashing. They would drive in pairs, and fair few times I would see them where they reached their end point, where they stopped, had a coffee break, done it, you know, and then turned back and shot up the other way. Now, I saw inside the back of the ambulances, they had nothing in them. They were empty. They were purely painted up as ambulances on the outside. Also, to add to that, you know, you've got to remember, I've been working on off as a subcontractor for the NHS for over 6 years now. And funnily enough, also in the beginning of the Scamdemic, I thought I'd try my hand at being a ambulance driver. And, you know, I got to speaking to a lot of the NHS ambulance drivers. I was doing it for a private company. And here's what happened, okay? Where a lot of the bus drivers, lorry drivers, the kind that work for the government, the civil servant type drivers that do like logistics for the government, a lot of them were given the opportunity to, you know, train up as blue light ambulance drivers, right? You know, to deal with the massive amount of death that was going to happen. All bullshit. We obviously know that now. But this is what they were getting told back in March 2020. So these fake ambulances were training ambulances. And what they were doing, they were training like bus drivers, lorry drivers, all kinds of like government drivers in how to drive blue light training. But they didn't tell the public that. This is how amazing the illusion operation goes, right? Because the bus driver who's now doing blue light training, he's not in on the whole the hoax, the Scamdemic hoax. The trainer who's training the blue light, he's not in on it. The escort vehicle driving behind, he's not in. They think they are just generally training up guys to deal with a pandemic that's coming. And yes, like I said, the members of the public weren't told this. They just kept seeing ambulances flying up and down the motorway in pairs with their lights on, creating the illusion that there was a deadly pandemic and that the ambulance services were rushed off their feet. And I can assure you they were not. They were sitting around with sunglasses on with their feet up. One of the most surreal situations I had was when I was doing my ambulance training. By the way, I never took that job on. I'd done 2 weeks of training, and then it took so long for my criminal record to come through that I finally just went back to my old job, and I wasn't really that bothered. But yeah, one of the most surreal things was chatting to these ambulance drivers and kind of like asking, like, do you think this is real? Do you think there's a really... And he's like, oh yeah, man, it's definitely real. And I'm sitting there and the guy's fucking wearing sunglasses, sitting with his feet up on the table, eating a bag of crisps. I'm thinking, what a clown, man. You're an ambulance driver who believes there's a pandemic of death coming, yet you're sitting here like this. You know? You'd be covered in blood, man. You'd have a look of shock in your face where you'd be dealing with all the dead bodies. You would not be sitting here with sunglasses on, chilled out and relaxed. Anyway, that's it. Ambulances driving down the street for a pandemic. Tanks being driven down the road for a war. We live in a twilight world. There are no friends at dusk.